Hi everyone. So, probably 2 days ago, I don't think I am going to get this up tomorrow. 2 days ago, I recommended some books if you have some more free time staying at home and you are looking for some book recommendations, or if you just wanted to hear about some books. And today I'm going to try refilming the recommendations of movies and TV shows. And specifically, I looked at streaming services and looked at what is available on there right now. So this is very of the moment. I am not sure when things are going to go off different services, but I do have some things listed that are on the Criterion Channel that I know are leaving at the end of the month, March 2020. Yeah, I have things on the Criterion Channel, things on Netflix, things on Hulu and Prime, and I'll probably leave timestamps in the description if you only have one of those and don't want to hear about other recommendations. Ultimately, this is still just some great movies and some great shows. Before I actually get started, I want to mention that apparently my updates and upcoming video 2 videos ago, which I'll link in the description and in the card, the comments were disabled. I don't know why. I don't know how that happened, but they're back on. I fixed it. So if you wanted to leave a comment and they were disabled for some reason, now you can comment on the video. Definitely check that out and leave some feedback or just tell me how you're doing or whatever. Okay, we're gonna start with things that are on the Criterion Channel, and first I have collections that are in the category of recent collections, if that makes sense. Like when you go onto the Criterion Channel and there's different sort of sections. So this is under the recent collections, and two that I have that kind of have to do with each other, and this is also really of course I'm recommending these. One collection is starring Anna Karina, and the other collection is directed by Jean-Luc Godard. I have a notebook here, by the way, if I'm looking down. Anna Karina is in many Jean-Luc Godard films, and so 9 of the films in her collection, or there are 9 total, sorry. There are 9 total. 7 of the films in that collection are directed by Jean-Luc Godard and also available in his directed by collection. So a lot of films there overlap. And then along with those 7 Godard films, there's also The Nun and Chinese Roulette available to watch that Anna Karina is in. I think The Nun is directed by Jacques Rivette, and Chinese Roulette is Werner Rainier Fassbinder. Is that his full name? Oh my god, I don't know his full name. But I think that's it. Something like that. Sorry. If you didn't know, Jean-Luc Godard is one of my favorite directors, and I just love the French New Wave. French film from the 60s is my kind of thing. Of course, I recommend the sort of staples of the French New Wave. Specifically, I would recommend Pierre le Fou, Alphaville, Contempt, and A Married Woman, because those are Godard films that used to be on Criterion but are out of print right now. There's also a handful that aren't on the collection that are available on the channel, more of his later things that I actually haven't watched yet. So that would be interesting. The most recent film of his I watched is Every Man for Himself, and I'm pretty sure that's an 80s film. But it has his most recent sort of trilogy. The first one being Film Socialism, and then Goodbye to Language, and then The Image Book, which I actually think was just from 2018. My personal favorite Jean-Luc Godard film is Masculine Feminine, and then at one point Pierre le Fou was my favorite Godard film, and actually one of my favorite my favorite film, until I saw Psycho, and then Psycho also got replaced. Yeah, but I still love Pierre le Fou, and I think Breathless is just really accessible and easy to watch if you're not into the French New Wave and if you haven't really delved into it, because it's one of the few Godard films, in my opinion, that has a strict storyline. And then another collection is called Starring Juliette Binoche, and I actually haven't seen many of the films in this collection in particular, but I've noticed that I keep watching films that she's in, so this is a collection that I would like to explore more. I did write down the films in all of these collections, but I thought that when I tried to film this the first time, that took up like too much time. But I will read you the films, the 8 films in this collection. So there's Rendezvous, Mauvais Sang, Three Colors Blue. So definitely watch like the Three Colors trilogy and not just Three Colors Blue. Code Unknown, Summer Hours, Certified Copy, Els, and The Clouds of Sils Maria. And then another collection that I have somewhat explored but would like to watch more from is the foreign language Oscar winners. It said there were 22 films, but then when I counted, there were only 21. So that was kind of weird, but I don't know, maybe something came and went and I didn't notice. I feel like this collection has a good mix of foreign films, some Italian, some French, some Japanese, some Swedish, some Russian, and other languages that I don't know what is what off the top of my head, to be honest. But again, I don't want to like just list all of the movies. Another collection that I've seen a handful of films from but would like to explore more is the Glorious Food Collection. There are 11 films in this. Tampopo, Babette's Feast, Daisies, The Exterminating Angel. Those are just a handful. Oh, Tom Jones is in this collection, but like when I think of Tom Jones, I do not at all think of food. So I'm not 100% sure why Tom Jones is in this collection. I feel like this is a great time to watch some silent cinema as well, so I wrote down the Harold Lloyd collection and the Directed by Charlie Chaplin collection. I haven't seen a lot from the, like, 3 silent comedian filmmakers, who are Harold Lloyd, Charlie Chaplin, and Buster Keaton. They're the 3, like, major players, I would say, and the most well-known. But I think I have a preference for Harold Lloyd, although, again, I'm not 100% sure because I haven't necessarily seen that much from all 3. And the Harold Lloyd collection only has the 4 films that are available on the Criterion collection, and the Charlie Chaplin, Directed by Charlie Chaplin collection has a great number of films, and it ranges from short films that are closer to a half hour and longer films that are an hour and a half. So if you don't necessarily have more free time or whatnot, if you just want to watch something short, if you want to take a break here or there, you can always watch a shorter film. And then some movies that are a part of the Criterion Editions section, where basically it's everything that's available that is on the disc as well. I feel like a lot of these are sort of repetitive in terms of like what I talk about a lot, but we're gonna go with it. So first I have Grey Gardens from 1976. This is an American documentary with Big Edie and Little Edie and their mother and daughter, and they are related to Jackie Kennedy, and they have become sort of outsiders in that society and sort of estranged from the family, and they just live at Grey Gardens, which is the name of the house and the estate, and it's just them living their lives, and it's great. I remember thinking at one point that this really wouldn't be that like entertaining or interesting, but it really is. And not only is Grey Gardens available, but then there's the sort of extended cut, so to speak, called The Beals of Grey Gardens from 2006, and this is more footage from when they went back to Grey Gardens after they had filmed most of what is in the documentary, and then they went back to film some more stuff, and it's just great. I love Little Edie. I mean, to know someone like Little Edie just would be great. I keep on saying that I need to get this. Thankfully, it's on the Criterion Channel because I keep saying I need to get it. I could just play it all day. Yeah. And then the next one that I have to recommend is a French film from 1963, and that is Judex. The films that I have, I'll show you. And this is sort of, I always forget that this is actually a 60s film. It seems like it should be like a 30s film, and this is kind of hard to explain. It's kind of comic-esque in the way that there's like this sort of, not necessarily vigilante character, but like this guy, look, in like the hawk, is that a hawk? I don't really know. But in the bird costume, and he's like kidnapped this corrupt banker and he's trying to get justice. It's very much done in a similar way to earlier films, which may be just like more of an homage to the original like serial that it's a remake of, technically, I think. But I think this is great, and it stands out to me because when I watched this for the first time, just a quick story, long story short, my mom ended up watching that entire movie with me, almost entire movie. She came in my room to say goodnight and ended up staying for the rest of the movie, and I was only like 15 minutes into it or something like that at first. And it's a French movie in black and white, and that's just like nothing my mom would watch, and I really remember that, and I just think that's great. She liked it. Obviously, it caught her attention enough to sit. She was gonna go to bed, and she had work the next morning. But she sat and watched this movie with me. And then I'm also going to recommend Belle de Jour from 1967. This is another French film. It's one of my favorites. I literally mention it all the freaking time. It's probably one of my like most watched films. And to summarize it quickly, it is about Séverine, who is married and she's not intimate with her husband, and you can definitely tell there's some sort of flashbacks and hints at abuse or trauma when she was younger, and perhaps that is why she is unable to be intimate with her husband, and she decides to solve this problem by pretty much becoming a prostitute, and then one of her clients becomes too attached to her and likes her too much, and it's great. And by the way, Catherine Deneuve is one of my favorite actresses, and she plays Séverine. Another Criterion edition is The Graduate, one of my favorite films, in my top 4 probably. It's always hard to rank favorite films, but probably it's like on my top 4 in my Letterboxd, so it's high up there. And this is great. I can't even begin to explain The Graduate because I've seen it so many times, and I have 2 copies of this actually. I have this Criterion edition and I have a Studio Canal Steelbook, and just the supplements on this, just watch it and watch all the supplements that are available because it's so, I actually wrote about this for a paper that I had to analyze the film pretty much, and it's such a good film to choose for analyzing. There's so much to talk about. It's amazing, and it made me love the film even more and appreciate it even more. It's about Benjamin Braddock, who graduates college, and he doesn't really know what he's doing with his life now that he's graduated, and he does know for sure that he doesn't want to be a part of the society that his parents are a part of, and so he decides to rebel and have an affair with his father's business partner's wife, Mrs. Robinson. But he also falls in love with Elaine Robinson, her daughter. And then in the essential art house category section, there is Hiroshima Mon Amour from 1959. I recently rewatched this, and it just, every time I watch it, I feel like it solidifies itself in my list of like overall favorite films. Did I say it's French? It's another French film. This is about a French woman who is an actress, and she is in Hiroshima filming a movie, and she has this brief affair with a Japanese man. I think he's an architect, and it's pretty much about their affair, as well as similar to Belle de Jour actually, in the way that the woman is dealing with past trauma and past events, and it's more so about her than it is the guy, but it's still about her and then their love and Hiroshima after the bomb. And actually, I think that Belle de Jour and Hiroshima Mon Amour would be a good double feature. And then in the newly added section, they have Nosferatu from 1922, directed by F.W. Murnau. And I love Nosferatu. It's Dracula, except, they changed things, they changed names because they didn't have the rights to it, but then there was that whole lawsuit. Yeah, but it's Nosferatu, Dracula. I think I actually prefer this to the Universal Dracula, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know. I'd have to watch both of them, and then I probably wouldn't be able to make up my mind any more than I can now. I love Nosferatu, though. It's so creepy. It really is creepy. Like, watch this in the dark. It's creepy. Count Orlok is creepy. And also, to go along with that, I have The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari from 1920, another silent film. This one is from the German Expressionism movement period. I never know if I should say movement or period, because it's kind of both sometimes. This one is great as well. Both are very iconic. And then, important, okay? These ones are leaving March 31st, so they're no longer going to be on the Criterion Channel at the end of the month. So, first we have A Place in the Sun from 1951. I need to rewatch this before it goes off the channel. I haven't seen it in quite a while, but I remember being so blown away by it and just like really shocked at the events. It's about, I think Montgomery Clift's character is George Stevens. George Stevens is the director. It's like George Eastman, maybe, I think. Okay, well, Montgomery Clift's character, he is in the lower working class, and he is trying to make his way, to the top. And along the way, he falls in love with one of his coworkers, and they sort of like work in the same building or something, I'm pretty sure, played by Shelley Winters, and they get married. And then as he's making his way up to the top, somehow he ends up like meeting the boss and becoming close with the boss. I don't know what he does. I can't remember what he does either. But he ends up becoming sort of closer to the boss and being invited to certain like parties and events. And then he meets the boss's daughter, played by Elizabeth Taylor, and falls in love with her. But he's already married, and it's a ride. Yeah, I need to rewatch it. And then I also have written down The Adventures of Prince Ahmed from 1926. The silent sort of, what is this style called? Where it's like the paper? It's like paper? Because my hand is really going to show you what I mean. Yeah, I saw this on TCM years ago and would like to rewatch this before it goes off the channel. Oh man, this is where I can't go off too much because I really want to talk about these two movies. The Taste of Others and Look at Me from 2000 and 2004, respectively, directed by Agnes Jaoui. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce that, but it's Jaoui. These are a couple of French films that I recently watched, and I really like them. I think they're such interesting, like, character studies, like all the characters in these films. I could go on about them, but to briefly summarize them, The Taste of Others is about this businessman who needs to take English lessons for some reason, and then he ends up going to a play later that night or in a couple nights and seeing the English teacher perform in this play, and he's so just in awe of her and pretty much falls in love with her. There was a word that I was looking for and I forgot. But yeah, he pretty much falls in love with her and then becomes sort of closer to her friends, and then they continued to have these like English lessons. And I'm doing a terrible job. I'm doing a bad job of summarizing this one. But then Look at Me is about this young girl, Lolita, who is training to be a singer, and she is having a concert coming up, and it's about her becoming closer to her vocal coach and her father, who is an author, becoming closer to her vocal coach's husband, who is also an author, and it's just sort of like the merging of the families, but each of these characters want the attention from like somebody else that is just not giving them the attention that they want and the affection that they want. And specifically with Lolita, it's really sad because she just wants like her father to pay attention to her at least a little bit, and it's really sad at some points just because he's just like preoccupied with other things, and it's like, really, you can't just do this? And then lastly, I have some Jane Campion films are going off the collection, which is kind of confusing because right now I'm in the middle of watching movies that are in the collection directed by Jane Campion. And I hope that's not confusing by me saying in the collection when it's like called the Criterion Collection. But I think you know what I mean, right? But for some reason, Holy Smoke from 1999, In the Cut from 2003, and The Piano from 1993 are no longer going to be on the Criterion Channel after the end of this month, which is confusing to me, because does that mean they're not going to be in the Directed by Jane Campion collection anymore? I'd like to get to these. As I said, I'm making my way through the Jane Campion collection, like the Directed by Jane Campion, so we'll see. Yeah, obviously I'm recommending these, but I haven't seen them. So that's the Criterion Channel. Moving on to Netflix. So I've got some TV shows, which I realize a lot of the TV shows that I'm recommending are actually just like favorites of mine. So we're going to start off with, you can guess it, right? Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is my favorite show. It was on from 1990 to 1991. It's 2 seasons and 30 episodes total. Don't know why I'm looking at my notebook. I know that information by heart. Just watch Twin Peaks. I feel like have I even really talked about Twin Peaks before? I'm not exactly sure. But just watch it. Who Killed Laura Palmer? Special Agent Dale Cooper arrives in Twin Peaks to investigate the death of Laura Palmer. Homecoming Queen. And there's some supernatural-ish things as well. Don't be fooled by its mundanity if you haven't seen this before. Also, Twin Peaks is available on Hulu. Yeah, so these, I said Netflix, right? These are on Netflix, okay? We've moved on from the Criterion Collection, or from the Criterion Channel to Netflix. So I also recommend Merlin, which is just a fun fantasy series that has to do with, like, the legend of Merlin, and, like, not really Merlin, but, like, the legend of King Arthur and Merlin. And this is only 5 seasons with 65 episodes total. It ran from 2000 to 2012. Do I really need to tell you the years? I don't think so, but there it is. Anyway, it's kind of cheesy, but it's like fun cheesy. And then also Memories of the Alhambra from 2018. It's just 1 season, 16 episodes. This is a K-drama, but I feel like less of a K-drama than like what you may think if you're familiar with K-dramas. I feel like K-dramas are kind of cheesy. I feel like this is a little less cheesy and just really interesting in the whole concept. It's about, I'm going to do a bad job explaining this, but it's about this boy who makes an augmented reality video game and contacts 2 different CEOs of 2 different video game companies, and they're sort of competing to try to get this AR game, AR, augmented reality, yeah, and or virtual reality, augmented reality. What's the difference? I feel like this may be a little spoilery. I don't know, but it turns out that when like you die in the game, you end up dying in real life, but you also become a part of the game, and the game starts playing by itself. Like, it's done through contacts, like on your eyes, and that's how you put the contacts in, and then it starts up the game. And the guys, the CEO people of the video game companies, they start like seeing the home screen and like the start screen and all the video game like interface screen, when the contacts aren't even in. And so it's like it starts playing by itself. And I originally only watched this, what made me interested, it did look interesting, but what made me be like, I should watch this, is because it has Chanyeol from EXO in it. EXO is my favorite K-pop group, if you're new here. Yes. So, did I write down any other shows? Oh, another show, one last show that is available on Netflix is Penny Dreadful. This is the 1st season, this is the 2nd season, and then there is a 3rd season that I don't have because they didn't release it individually, they just released the box set. And this has to do with literary characters from classic Gothic Victorian novels, and yeah, brought together in Penny Dreadful, this TV show. It's got Dorian Gray from The Picture of Dorian Gray, it has the Wolfman, it has Victor Frankenstein and his monster or creature, it has Mina Murray somewhat, but mostly her father, Sir Malcolm Murray. It has, in one of the seasons, it has Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In another season, in only one season, it has Dracula, but also Dracula is kind of implied throughout the entire show. and it has Ava Green as Vanessa Ives, who is great. She's a witch, sort of. Yeah, witches and demons, and it's great. And dark and Victorian Gothic greatness. Then for movies, I recommend Zodiac from 2007. It's about the Zodiac Killer. Maybe it's not a great one to watch if you're like super anxious or something like that. This actually really freaks me out. The last time I watched this, I was house sitting and I watched it at like really late, and then I had to watch like a comedy afterwards because I needed to be like lifted a bit from the creepiness. And whenever it gets to the end credits and starts singing the hurdy-gurdy man song, I can never listen to that song the same. Yeah, and this is about the Zodiac Killer. Did I say that already? I feel like people know what Zodiac is about. It's great. And then I also recommend Mansfield Park from 1999. Mansfield Park is my favorite Jane Austen novel that I've read. I talked about it in my book recommendations video. That was the last video that I put up. It's about Fanny Price, who her parents have a lot of children, and her mother sends her off to live with her aunt, who married someone of their class and of rich and high status, and her mother had married for love, and so they don't have that much money because she married for love instead of money. And so Fanny lives with her cousins and her aunt and uncle in this estate of Mansfield Park, and it's just pretty much about her life. Mostly, I mean, it has to do with like her love life, but also her relationship with her cousins. And then a movie that I'm going to talk more about in an upcoming video is Anna Karenina from 2012. I recently rewatched this and I love it. I like had really mixed feelings the first time that I watched it. Probably because I watched it really close to when I read the book, and I was being very picky about it. But I feel like if you don't know the direction style, then it may be kind of jarring, especially if you're not familiar with the characters and the story, because it's set up like they built a theater in the sound stage. And I'm sorry, these lines are really annoying me. I mentioned it before. It's because I got a new phone before, like in previous videos, but sorry if you can see like the lines from my lights. Anyway, they built a theater in the soundstage, and then they filmed in the theater and used that as like the set for many different settings of the film. And so especially in the beginning, you can see set pieces like move up and suddenly they're like in a restaurant. They were previously at like a workplace and there was like a desk or like something like that. And now suddenly they're in a restaurant, and the set pieces are moving in and out. They're doing sort of costume changes like on the stage in a way. And I was just like, what is happening? I remember being like really confused at first, the first time I saw it, but I feel like it's better knowing that going into it if you haven't seen it before. And yeah, again, I'm going to talk about this in an upcoming video because I just loved it so much. It's about Anna Karenina, who has an affair with Count Vronsky, and it's the repercussions of this, and it has a cast of characters as well. There is Anna's brother, Stepan, who is married to Dolly, whose sister is Kitty, and there's also Levin, who is Stepan's friend and in love with Kitty, and it's their lives in Russia. I don't know what year this takes place. I should know that. And then we also have, real quickly, I'll go through these, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, the musical, Tim Burton musical adaptation from 2007. I love this film. It's so good. It's one of those movies that, like, once I watch it, I'll just watch it again, like, the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. I love it so much. And I'm not really, it's Sweeney Todd. He comes back to London to exact revenge on this guy who ruined his life, and he kills people as a barber, and then Mrs. Lovett bakes them into pies. Yeah, but I recently rewatched the video because I think it got like blocked or something and he had to re-upload it. Oh man, I'm forgetting the channel's name, but I recently rewatched a video all about the music of Sweeney Todd, and it's amazing. I had just watched this video. It's so interesting, and I can't even speak. I love when like so much thought and detail is put into like the music of something. Like I already like certain things about musicals. Like I love when there are sort of like themes for certain characters and different sounds and like melodies that represent things, but like this takes it to another level. It really does. So I'm going to link that video in the description and the card. I highly recommend it, especially if you're into music and composition and musicals. And then I also have Ex Machina. This is from 2015. I had to double check. And this is about a robot. This is about like a man who gets chosen from the company to meet the CEO of the company. He's this really super like rich guy who, and very smart guy, who has created an AI, I guess. She's a robot, and the guy who won the contest is doing that test, whatever it's called. I don't know it off the top of my head. But he's doing that test to see if she understands that she's a robot. Yeah, but it's great. Great cast, too, even though there's only like 3 main characters. And then I have Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It's Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I feel like some of these movies everyone knows about, so I don't really have to explain, but I will anyway. This is just so much fun, and it's such a well done film, especially for it being like an adaptation of a comic series. So Scott Pilgrim, he's in love with Ramona Flowers, but he has to face off her 7 previous relationships, her 7 evil exes in a way, and it's great fun and really funny and great. It's great fun. All right, so that was Netflix. Now we're moving on to Hulu. So, Hulu TV shows. Well, TV shows that are on Hulu. Oh, wait, I forgot to mention this. So, with Hulu and Amazon Prime, I feel like Netflix and the Criterion Channel are my go-to, like, apps on my Roku TV. So, I was actually looking at the things on Amazon and on Hulu, and I was like, oh my god, I haven't watched this yet. Oh my god, they have this? I haven't watched this yet. So it's actually a lot of things that I haven't seen, but I would like to watch. But starting with the TV shows, I recommend Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. I just feel like I'm really in the mood for like fantasy, so that's sort of why I'm recommending like fantasy and supernatural things. So, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She's a teenage girl who is a vampire slayer. Again, sort of cheesy, especially because it started in the 90s, but it's fantastic, and it's like, I've been watching a lot of videos actually about Buffy and sort of how the monsters in Buffy represent like the horrors of real life. The horrors of real life. I feel like I should enunciate that better. Buffy. I love Buffy. If you're gonna watch one, definitely watch Buffy, because Angel sort of lost me, but I still really enjoy both, especially because I watched it like sort of going back and forth between like episodes, because there are episodes that go together and I wanted the like continuity. Oh my gosh, and Hulu has The Killing, which is one of my favorite shows. Kind of confusing though, because it ran on AMC for 3 seasons, and then Netflix picked it up for a final 4th season, but it's not on Netflix anymore, it's on Hulu, so that's weird. But if you like Twin Peaks, definitely watch The Killing. They have sort of similar premises. The first 2 seasons are about like who killed Rosie, I think her name is, but it's like another sort of who killed this young girl and the investigation surrounding it, surrounding the murder. Or, well, technically she's missing at first, and then they're like, she's probably dead. Yeah, so the first 2 seasons revolve around that case. The 3rd season has a different case, and the 4th season has a different case. But it deals with the same detectives. It's great. This is my second. Is this my second favorite show? I don't know. I don't know where it ranks, but it's high up there. But yeah, if you like Twin Peaks, definitely give The Killing a chance. It sounded weird. Okay. Movies on Hulu. Interview with a Vampire from 1994. I'm like obsessed with the Vampire Chronicles right now. I haven't started it yet, but I have the 3rd book on audiobook. I listened to the first 2 books in the Vampire Chronicles already on audiobook. Now I'm on the 3rd. And I just really love Interview with a Vampire. It is about Louis, a vampire, and he's doing an interview with a human, and he's telling his life story pretty much. And it's great. I love it. We're being really concise with these summaries in case you don't know what things are, but I also don't want to talk too much about each thing, especially because I am running long on this. And then also Little Miss Sunshine from 2006. This is super cute. Just watch it. Trigger warning for, like, suicidal actions and suicidal thoughts. Yes, that's what I know off the top of my head that I should warn you about. But I also really want to see Thelma from 2017. It's like she has weird powers or something, or like something's happening to her, and she sort of has powers. I know very little about this, but also she's a lesbian. Or at least has like a crush on her friend, and then they start up a relationship or something. There's Shoplifters from 2018. I've heard great things about that. If Beale Street Could Talk, also from 2018. Sorry to Bother You, also from 2018. Annihilation, also from 2018, which I have seen. That one is not so great if you're like an anxious person, maybe, but it's cool, sci-fi, weird. Yeah. Also from the same director as Ex Machina. Hulu also has Akira from 1988, which I feel like I've been seeing on YouTube a lot, like people talking about it. I really also want to watch Loving Vincent from 2017. It also has Force Majeure from 2014, which was recently made. It has a Hollywood remake called Downhill, I think, that people are saying is terrible, and to just watch Force Majeure. And there's also Big Fish, the Tim Burton film from 2003. Yeah, so that's Hulu. And then finally, Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime TV shows. The Sopranos is available on Amazon Prime, and The Sopranos is one of my favorite shows. If you haven't watched it yet, what are you doing? Watch it. It also has Orphan Black, which is another one of my favorite shows. It's about clones, and Tatiana Maslany plays like a bajillion characters, and she's so good at really making each character unique, and like they all feel like different characters. You honestly forget you're watching the same actress just like on screen with herself and herself and herself and herself. Orphan Black has 5 seasons. Oh, The Sopranos has 6 seasons, 86 episodes total. Orphan Black has 5 seasons, 50 episodes total. And movies on Amazon Prime. Zodiac is also available on Prime. I mentioned it's available on Netflix, right? Yeah. Clue from 1985. Clue is so funny. I watched this a lot as a kid with my brother. It's great. I also love the board game Clue. This is hilarious. Clue. Oh, another series I forgot to mention. I put it at the bottom because I ran out of room. But Neverland, which I actually have, it's a mini series, and it's like a prequel to Peter Pan. And I love prequels and origin stories, especially when there isn't really one that is accurate. Like, you know, with prequels and in origin stories, it can just be whatever someone has come up with who isn't in any way attached to the original work. And I like that because you can have this as a prequel or an origin story, or you can have something else that somebody else came up with, you know? The next movie that I have to recommend on Amazon Prime is Harold and Maude, which I own. I love Harold and Maude. It's an American film from 1971, which I knew. I don't know why I looked at the back. This is about a 79-year-old woman who befriends a 20-year-old young man, and what they get up to. They like going to funerals and stuff. I actually find this like so much funnier every time I watch it. Specifically, Harold's mom is hilarious. She's so funny. But this deals with suicidal issues in a way. So if you need to know about that, that is prevalent in this film. Now, I only have a few more movies to mention, and that is Honey Boy and Colette, both from last year, 2019, which I haven't seen yet, but I would like to watch those. And We Have Always Lived in the Castle from 2018, which is, I recently watched. It's so good. I talked about it a little bit in my last video because it made me want to reread the book, so I would like to do that. I'm going to talk more about We Have Always Lived in the Castle in an upcoming video, but just go into this not thinking of it as like a horror film or like a scary movie, because it's really not. Yeah, it's about Mary Cat and Constance Blackwood, who live with their Uncle Julian in this big house. The rest of their family was murdered by Constance, and they seclude themselves from the rest of the townspeople. Then their lives kind of get turned upside down in a way when their cousin Charles comes to visit and just causes a disturbance, and things start to change. Yeah, I think that is good enough. That's all my recommendations, and this is really long. Not sure how much of this I'm going to be able to cut out, but thank you so much for watching. What are you watching? What are you reading? Are you doing well? If you've seen anything that I've talked about, I'd love to have a discussion with you in the comments about them, or if you have any recommendations for me based on what I've given you here, and if you know my taste, I'd love to know some other movies and shows to watch. So again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!